Hey nerds, and welcome to The Gutter. My name is Steve-O. This is the 13th episode of Season 3 of The Gutter Nerds Podcast. Joining me tonight, hates Grey's Anatomy, JB.
That's my new username.
Yeah, it's changed from just Grey's Anatomy to hates Grey's Anatomy, yeah. Over at the end of the couch, hates DC Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Raven 1.
I don't know, Raven 1.
How do you feel about Doom Patrol?
Doom Patrol?
DC show with Brendan Fraser.
He hasn't heard of
Nothing? Nope. Okay.
Never? Nope.
You should check out Doom
I
Patrol.
will
Let me
check
know what
out
you think.
Doom Patrol.
Joining us tonight is a guest, friend of ours, Lucas Lyon. I'm sorry, award-winning minis painter, Lucas Lyon. Lucas, and you hated...
Nobody cares that he's a friend of yours.
It's not important what I hated.
You
We won't tell the audience.
Oh my God. Yeah, thanks guys. We're going to be talking
Steve
about...
hated The Simpsons, by the way, for those of you keeping
true.
score at home.
That's right.
Nobody
cares.
Nobody's gonna ruffle feathers over that
How
one.
hipster of you to hate The Simpsons.
Fine.
Tonight we're going to be talking about Warhammer. We're going to give you a primer. We're going to talk about Warhammer 40k. We're going to talk about minis. But first,
Get it? Primer? And like, it's what you do before you paint? You guys get it?
that's funny.
You guys get
Can't
it?
skip the primer, it's critical.
For real?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
What does it look
100%
like
is
if you don't
critical.
prime?
Garbage.
We'll get
Okay. What you been playing? Raven.
I've actually, this is actually pretty cosmic. I've started playing a lot more X-Wing miniatures.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, it is way too hot in my gaming room to be on my computer.
Yeah.
Unless I just let the AC run all day long while I'm at work, and I refuse to pay that. So,
Yeah.
Just kind of taking a break from
Why
computer
cool an
gaming.
empty house?
Yeah, exactly. So I've been meeting up with a buddy of mine and playing some X-Wing miniatures, and getting into X-Wing 2.0 is new-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a year old now, so I guess not as new.
New
but-
to you.
Yeah. No, but yeah, it's
How often are there updates
Interesting.
to,
But that's why
to
you added
tabletop
the
games
ish.
like that?
Ish
well,
is
so
appropriate.
there are updates often. This is a
New
a
version.
reboot.
Oh,
This
okay.
is like, listen, we have gotten so out
And
of
it's
hand.
completely changed.
Yeah, yeah.
What, it's 50% changed? 50% different?
So like, if you learned the base rules of X-Wing and then you stop playing, and they're like, hey, here's X-Wing 2.0, you're like, okay, yeah, there's a couple of different mechanics, but it's pretty much the same game, just easier, way better balanced. Like, they got into so many balancing issues that they couldn't fix, so they're like, we got to start over or just throw this game away.
So didn't they launch an app?
Yes.
So they launched an app and that, like, in my opinion, that fixed the problem with X-Wing.
Yes.
Because the problem with X-Wing before was it was a collectible card game meets a miniatures game.
Right.
But the collectible cards were only in miniatures you didn't want. So you had to buy 3 Millennium Falcons to get the little R2-D2 card that you could equip to your Poe Dameron
okay.
X-Wing. And
So that is still kind of a thing.
okay, well,
But what they did was, in X-Wing 1.0, every card was assigned a point value, like in most miniatures games. You have to build a squad of a certain number of points. The problem is that certain card combinations would be either unstoppable, would like, you put R2-D2 on Poe Dameron, and that's like a ridiculous combination, so R2-D2 should be worth
Still within
1,000
the point
points.
structure, but
yeah.
absolutely dominates everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need to update the points.
Yeah, and so what they did was they made points more fluid, so
Okay.
they can go in and fix things because there are no points on cards. You need the app to get the points of the cards. So
Okay.
if they're like, oh, this is stupid. Then they also made it so that like R2-D2 on Wedge is more points than if you put R2-D2 on just like random no-name fighter.
Right. Okay.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I like the app structure. Games Workshop could learn a lot from them.
From Games Workshop?
No, the opposite.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
really
Games
good.
Workshop could learn a lot
quite a
from-
bit by making a connected app.
Oh, okay.
They have one for Age of Sigmar, but
Okay.
still waiting on it for everything else.
JB, what you been playing?
Oh, you know what I've been playing? I've
Speedo Moon.
been playing a big old
Marvel Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Oh, gotcha.
I've been playing.
Every time we
the
say
P-
Spider-Man, we
I say
bastardize it even
Superman
more.
or whatever, and then we
Yeah.
said Speedo Man, and we realized that's Calvin's superhero
That
name.
is
Yeah.
Cal. Yeah. Wait, did we just out Calvin?
No, Calvin outed himself years ago.
Fair enough.
First said, I'm Speedo. Sun's out, guns out. Shit. Now they all know.
Yep, now they all know.
No, I've been playing Spider-Man. Love it. I could not say a bad thing about this game. Right off
say
the
these
top of my
things?
head. Like, the only thing that's been struggling is that, like, when I finally completed a collection thing, like, all right, I've collected all 12 pigeons for the homeless guy. They're like,
That's a real side mission. He's not making that up.
Yeah.
That's for real.
And then I
And
advanced
it's
the
fucking
story.
fun.
It was fun. I was like, get back here, you rat with wit. Like, I was so into it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, advance the story. And they're like, we just unlocked these things. And I'm like, oh, God, well, now I have to pause the story for 2 more hours to. And actually, in a way, it's better because it spreads out the collectibles and they, like, doing 12 things is easier than doing 200 things all at once.
So, yeah, that they do. They progress gate collectibles, which if you take Spider-Man at face value and you look at everything that it has to offer, it may sound like a typical open world collectathon video game, like, oh, look at all this shit. But because they give you some stuff and you can do it, and then it unlocks more stuff to do, it always feels like you're gaining something as opposed to just
like
tarrying
the
about
one
for
was
no
collecting
reason.
50 backpacks. And
Yeah.
it was not hard to do. I'm like, backpack,
And there are
backpack.
hidden collectibles in the game where the game doesn't tell you, and you're like, oh. I'm gonna stand here. Oh, cool. Not the Golden Gate Bridge. That's San Francisco. Statue of Liberty. And then, oh shit! I unlocked something by taking a picture of some landmarks.
There are 50 hidden pictures you have to take. Once you hit level 50, I was like, why is that not showing up on my? Like, I was confused. So I actually just like, okay, did I mess something up? Because the game's glitched on me twice. So I was like, just checking here. Is that something I'm supposed to like have and it's like, oh no, there's 50 hidden collectibles. When you reach level 50, you'll get some item that kind of buzzes your controller when you're nearby, and that's your guide. I'm like, okay, so it helps out. Cool. Of course, once I hit level 50, I'm just going to Google, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, because I find a lot of open world games, you like race to the end of the story, you race to like a high level, because a lot of them have like the higher level you are, you get more mobility aids.
Yeah.
Like Assassin's Creed is notorious for this.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you get all the collectibles, and it's literally 12 years of gathering collectibles.
And it doesn't have any effect on anything. It's just inconsequential bullshit.
Right.
Oh, you got them. They give you a thumbs up and send you on your way.
In this game,
or in the case of Black Flag, so you finally did every mission and every side mission and all the different variants of the side missions, and you collected everything. So now we're going to give you the skeleton ship, which is like on your ship, your crew is all skeletons, which is really cool.
It's awesome.
And now you can do nothing. Because you literally did everything to unlock it.
So why are you going to
all
sail
you can
around?
do is just sail around.
But like what
you can
Spider-Man
set the
does.
controller down and look at your skeleton crew. That's all you can fucking do.
No, because eventually they'll run into something.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it
But
doesn't
what
matter.
Spider-Man does is really good. Like, I'll be advancing in the story, and then like the demons come out, and they've got like the shields and these electric weapons. And I'm like, okay, these guys are trashing me now, and I can't keep up combat-wise. Oh, look, this suit. If I unlock this suit, it has an ability which sends an EMP burst and disrupts all their weapons. Okay, I need to collect these, and these to pay for it. Okay, well, I'm going to take a break and go collect pigeons and go collect backpacks until I've done enough to buy the suit, and then it gives me a 1-up in battle.
That
Like,
sounds
and you don't
collectibles
You don't have
affect
to do
your-
that. You can just learn like you can just
Steve-O, no.
Get-
I'm the
you
best
can
at
get
this game.
good
You
at
can
the
get good
game.
and do it.
Gotcha.
But you can also be like, okay, I'm gonna get better at fighting, or I can go upgrade my shit. Like you can.
Which is interesting. I feel like there's a parallel to be drawn. Now, I haven't seen Far From Home, but at least Homecoming, it's a parallel to be drawn there.
Oh, yeah.
You can either just be given the fancy Iron Man suit, and you're just Iron Man that shoots webs, or you can, get good, and Iron Man takes it away from you.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Lucas? What you been playing?
I have been playing. So I'm a shrill for all things Games Workshop, obviously. So I've been playing Chaos Bane on Xbox One, which is basically a less polished Diablo with a Warhammer skin on it.
It's
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, Warhammer Diablo.
It is far less polished, I will be honest, but it's
Are you
all right.
as a Warhammer fan?
Like the PUBG of the Diablo style games.
Is it like
Crunchy.
glitchy and shitty, or just less fully featured?
There's like
or?
less stuff, right? So in Diablo you have like the really cool skill tree, and like it's not as good.
Okay.
And there just seems like there's less stuff to do.
When you say not as good, do you mean
It's
not
very
as
repetitive.
in depth?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Because some people, so I'm the kind of person who like, when Mass Effect came out and it was like, you can change all your armor and you can put upgrades in your different armors and have different armor pieces. And in Mass Effect 2, they were like, don't even worry
You just get
about
one
going into,
suit.
you get a suit and you can change what it looks like, but don't worry about all the other shit. People are like, oh, I love going into the menus and messing with my shit. And I'm like, I just want to shoot people.
Right.
So you can strip away some of that shit and I'm happy.
Well, it still has like, you got your different chest piece and your bracers and this and that and the other and your different weapon. But like, there's no merchant.
Okay.
You just donate your shit to some loser and he gives you like bonuses. I'm not
What
really
kind of message is that sending to our children? Like, that's crap.
Well, yeah. So you donate your shit. There's no crafting.
You're terrible. kind of loser-ass kid am I raising?
Donated all your shit? Are you fucking kidding me?
You can make money on that!
Bury it with me.
Right. There's no crafting. There's no merchant system. Like, so it's basically just if you took Diablo and removed about 20% of the features, and then you skinned it with Warhammer. That's it. But it's fun because I get to kill demons, and
Sure. And if you're a Warhammer fan, you're gonna dig it, right?
Exactly.
Do you have to be like a hardcore Warhammer fan, or do you think that the harder core Warhammer fan you are, the less likely you are to like the game? Because then you can like see through the cracks. You know what I mean?
No, it's pretty true to lore.
It's true. Okay. Good.
But the story is very basic and straightforward.
Hey, welcome to Dinos. How's it going? Trexa says, that's me, I just want to play. And then Sam is the complete opposite, craves all the extra menus and whatever. Yeah. The more time I'm in my menu, the less happy I am with the game.
Yeah. There's some games that are just too complex.
But with Sam, it's the more time he gets to customize his character.
Sure. But he loves video character customization with some combat and shit. Like he can, whatever the other shit is.
I can appreciate both ends on that spectrum. I really can.
So lately I've been playing a couple things. For the first time ever, I wanted to go back and play a game. Not ever. For the first time in many years, I wanted to go back and play a game again. Resident Evil 2, the remake. Okay. After Nerdez and I played through it, I was like, I want to play through it again just because I like the experience, and that hasn't happened to me in years. I usually play through a game, cool. Done. I like that one, next one. I played a game made by a community member in the G&G Krogs.
I saw that you were doing that. I didn't get a chance to see it.
It's called Restored. It's made with RPG Maker, I believe, and it's in like Alpha 3, so it's still pretty early. But it's basically complete. And there it is. Actually, Nightbot is reminding you guys of it because I forgot to change Nightbot.
Well, look, there's
there's
the
perfect
thing.
timing. If you're in the chat, you can download Krogs' game for free, and it's like funny. It's like legit funny. It's like a funny RPG, and I really like it.
Nice.
And then, what was the other thing that? They're getting ready to add into GTA Online a casino.
I saw that.
A fucking casino. And I'm super stoked.
Is that like a way you can just like earn money faster?
I don't know what it is. I don't know I've tried to look it up, and they have a website that looks like WinStar's Resort website, where it's like, here are the games you can play and stuff like that. And I guess you can win money. You can win like experience, like RP for your character. I didn't like. I sort of glanced at it. What I'm wanting them to do is to instill poker that we can play with each other for in-game currency. I would never stop.
Make money, like after a while they get so tedious. And I would sooner just be like, all right, I'm gonna take $100,000, and if you can just legit go to the casino and like gamble it up to 8 million and buy a freaking F-13 Tomahawk, whatever, I don't even know. I'm like, I'll do that any day of the week.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited. It's like
if
the
you
opening
lose
one
it,
of my
you just
backyard.
put the game down.
And yeah, that's it. Well, I guess I better go do more, shit, or hang out with my family or whatever it is. What do people do when they're not playing video games? So tonight, guys, we're going to talk about Warhammer. And first, Lucas, tell me a little bit about yourself. I see 2 awards here. I'm going to show you guys. We're going to get in a little bit closer on the stuff here. So here's our camera. These are some of the minis that you own.
Correct.
Some of the minis you worked on.
Not all these are painted by me.
But these awards, this one says best painted judge's choice.
Correct.
So the judges said that your mini was the best painted.
My army overall.
Your army overall.
Yes.
Okay.
Was the best painted at this particular event.
And then the other one here says best painted player's choice, and this is loyalist.
Correct.
Now, to earn the loyalist title, did they subject you to like questions and methods of like, let's see if he's really super loyal?
No, they did not. So basically, in the game, there are 2 sides in the game that these are from, which is Age of Darkness, Horus Heresy, 30k, whatever you want to call it. We usually shorthand it to 30k. Okay. Warhammer 30k. You can either play on the side of the loyalists or you can play on the side of the traitors.
Okay, so this is a faction award.
Correct. The Horde versus Alliance.
Basically, right.
Gotcha.
So you can either be cool or you can be a traitor.
Okay.
Those are the choices.
But I would not be able to determine what side you were on because either side would say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we just learned something about war
one side
today.
is right.
The ironic thing is both of the factions I play in the game are the fence sitters.
Fence sitters.
This is,
okay.
This
They're
is
the
the faction.
The Mandalorians of the...
That's the faction that you can't tell whether they're traitors, that you can't tell if they're really loyalists, and this is the faction that are loyalists that you can't tell if they're really traitors.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So how long have you been playing Warhammer or tabletop stuff?
So I started playing when I was in high school, probably in 2008-ish. And then I graduated high school, and I kind of took a break for a long time. You'll find this is pretty common with people that play Warhammer. They'll get into it in like into middle school, into high school, and then they'll find like beer and girls, and then they'll take a break for a while.
And then they'll realize
and then they'll get married, and then they'll get back into it.
Oh, okay. Oh, after the marriage.
Most of the time. Or it's like a serious relationship.
Got married, play Warhammer.
When they're in their mid-20s.
Okay, gotcha.
You'll find that's pretty common.
So how long have you been... Did you play before you painted, or do those things go hand in hand?
I wish that they did more than they do.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I believe that your models should be fully painted before you play with them. But not everyone is in this camp.
So if you had kids and they're like, Dad, I want to play Warhammer, you'd be like, paint me some shit and prove to me that you really want to play it?
Put 3 colors on that model.
Like
3
what
color
if they
minimum.
spend so much time playing it, and then they play their first game and like, wow, this game sucks. And then,
Then they have beautifully painted models that they can display for the world.
there you go. Fair enough.
Okay, so talk me through what we have here then. Let's start with the big guy.
Big boy.
Yeah. What?
So, this is the Venerable War Engine, Factorum Vitae, maker of Widows,
Okay.
from Legio Crucius.
That means it kills things.
It kills things.
Yeah.
Group of widows.
It's a Reaver class battle titan.
Okay.
So it's made in the Forge world of Crucius.
This is like deep lore
It
shit,
is.
right? Okay.
It is. So this is crewed by a crew of, I think it'll have a Princeps, who's like the main pilot. Then it'll have 2 Moderati, which will control the, actually I believe they're 3 Moderati, which control each of the weapons. And then there'll be a Tech Priest on board, which is somebody who worships the God Engine.
And this behemoth.
Gotcha, that makes sense. So a Maserati, a princess, and then a priest.
Yeah.
I'm tracking.
He seems friendly. Yeah, he looks real friendly. But even the big fellas, the big gals here, they come unpainted?
Correct.
Okay. And these are made of what?
These are made of
Fabric.
resin.
Resin, okay.
Yeah, so most of the miniatures that you'll see, like infantry and small tanks, are made of plastic. These are made of resin, and they're made by a company called Forge World.
Is it possible to buy, out of the box, like not through Etsy or whatever, is it possible to buy pre-painted minis?
No.
Or when you go to play Warhammer, you paint your minis?
So you may
Or
not
get
have
them.
painted them, but,
Sure, but they
there are
need to
commission
be
artists.
painted.
Yes.
Okay. So which of these were commissions and which of these are Lucas's?
So I had this commissioned.
Okay.
The Reaver. I had it commissioned by a guy through Invested Painting, is the painting studio. He's actually moving to North Texas here, so if you'd like to get him to paint your stuff, you can.
Okay.
And so this was built and painted to my specifications. This is exactly what I want.
So you were in communication with a person. Oh, actually, sorry guys. Let me pull that back. There we go.
Eventually.
So yeah, you were in communication with someone and you gave directives.
Right. I told him I wanted the checkers on the knee pad, and I wanted him to have like his name is in filigree on his banner
Oh, that's awesome.
up top. So yeah, that's David Coman with Invested Painting. He did a fantastic job. And then this is a Stormbird assault gunship,
Okay.
and I bought this painted already.
Okay. So
It happened to
was
be
acquired
painted in the Legion colors that I wanted, and I bought it that way.
Okay.
So but if you're getting started, you would recommend people paint their own.
Commissions can get very expensive very quickly.
Okay, I believe that.
Artists are very
Like,
proud of their
I'll give you
work.
like $8 to paint this thing for 17 hours straight.
Yeah.
$8. Take it or leave it.
So when you're getting like a new figure, are you or mini? Is there am I wrong with the nomenclature
figures,
there?
models.
Okay, that's all acceptable.
Yes.
Do you? Oh, that's huge. How long does something like that take? So yeah, how long did this take?
That's a
great
good question. I had this commissioned, and it was at my artist's studio for 8 months.
Okay.
It wasn't being consistently worked on for that time, but he had it for about 8 months, and it's actually not quite finished.
Really?
It has 2 other weapon options, that are still at the studio being done, and the interior hasn't been painted yet.
Okay.
Okay, actually,
It has an interior that that is removable.
Oh.
But the interior isn't finished at all.
See, that's actually a question I was going to bring up. So, and I'm sure you're going to hit this up. Like, when I was doing this in middle school, like, I would glue everything together all at once. And yes, I'm about to say stuff that's going to hurt.
That's okay. That's okay.
your brain.
That's okay.
I didn't know any better, right?
Well, so
Just
there
enthusiastic.
is something to be said about like the fully assembled and then paint. There's basically two camps. There's the sub-assembly camp where you build your stuff so it's easy to paint, and then there's the whole miniature where you build it and then you can play with it while you get it painted.
Well, I just built it because I was worried about painting something and then putting glue on it and like messing it all up.
Yeah, that can be an issue.
But then, like, when I was painting, I'd be like, well, how I can't get into that crack. Like, I want to get paint in there and like.
So I'll give you the secret. This definitely painted in sub-assemblies. The armor, the skeleton was all painted, and then the armor was added onto it. And it was probably about 90% airbrush.
Okay.
The trim is brushwork, but everything else is probably airbrush.
Okay.
Okay.
That's how you get these smooth fades.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do with a brush, especially in metallics. It's almost impossible to fade metallics like that with a brush.
So let's get into the little minis, like these guys real quick.
So these are all painted by me.
Okay.
So this is also Factorum Vitae, the maker of Widows, the one in the back here.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
It's a miniature version of it. It's an 8mm.
Thanks, Daniel.
This is an 8mm scale Titan, and this is a 28mm scale Titan.
Okay.
So this big Titan is for the game that these guys are for, and this little Titan is for its own game that is only Titans.
Gotcha.
So these two models represent the same model, the same
In
unit.
two different versions of game. Okay.
Correct. You'll see they're armed the same.
So were all these part of the army that won the award?
No, only these in the front here.
Okay.
And so these are all 30K.
Correct. These are all Age of Darkness miniatures, except for this one, which is Adeptus Titanicus,
Okay.
which is closely related to 30K. But it is a separate game.
Now
you can use these in 40K.
Okay.
They're usable in both games, but they were designed and built for 30K. Like, say this weapon right here is a good example. This is a Volkite Charger. It does not have stats for 40K, so you would have to come up with some other thing that you could do what's called a counts as.
So this would take the place of some other
Say he has
unit
this
or
gun
something.
instead. It uses the stats of this gun.
Gotcha. Hey, Wolf, welcome.
Who?
The amazing whom? Yeah. So let me ask you then. Let's do a real quick, like you've given me in the past a sort of a rundown of the different versions. So let's say someone is like, okay, so we've talked about the minis, and these if you are enticed by these, maybe you want to play Warhammer.
Right.
So if someone is like, I want to play Warhammer. Warhammer is a broad term.
Okay. It absolutely is. It's a huge IP.
What are our options?
So we'll start at the bottom and kind of work our way up. And we'll start with games that are small. We call these skirmish games, and they would be less than 20 miniatures.
Okay, so ease of entry.
Ease of entry, easy to paint, easy to buy, easy to build.
Okay, so low investment cost.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you don't like it, you're not out the many dollars that a full army costs for some of the other games, right?
And I'm gonna I won't have you out yourself, but I will, give me like what's the startup cost for each a general startup cost for each version here.
So basically, you have two different spheres of Warhammer. You have the fantasy sphere over here, and then you have the 40K sphere over here. Right?
Okay.
And all of the games fall in one of those two spheres. So in the fantasy sphere, which I don't have any Age of Sigmar fantasy miniatures here because I don't have any painted.
Okay.
You have, starting at the bottom, you have a game called Blood Bowl, which you may have heard of. It's a video game.
I've heard of the video game version of it.
Yeah, it's an old tabletop game that they've recently brought back, and it's literally fantasy football.
Football in fantasy world.
Correct. So did you ever play NFL Blitz?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like that,
Okay.
but with orcs and goblins and humans and stuff.
That sounds like something we would enjoy.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it's very easy to get into because it's very low model count.
Okay.
Like you buy the one team, the box of a team is like $40,
Okay.
and then you need the rules and you need a pitch,
Okay.
and that's it. And I think there's some special dice. That
And pitch is a soccer term for field.
Field, yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So if
That
you haven't
is
noticed,
stupid.
Games Workshop is a British company,
Yeah.
but they decided to make a game about American football,
Okay.
But using soccer
but using
terms.
soccer terminology.
Sure. Yeah. That
Makes
makes sense. Makes perfect sense to me. If I were British, I'd want to make an American football game.
And I mean, and they're charging you money, and we're paying for it. So
Right.
like,
So yeah, that's about $40 start in, and there's all these different teams.
For,
and-
like per person, or like $40 will get you a 2-person game.
yes, $40 per person.
Okay.
There is a starter box that you can buy, which includes 2 teams. I want to say it retails for 100 or 120,
Okay.
somewhere in there, and that would give you everything that you need to play
Everything
for
you
2
need
players.
to invite someone over and let's play some Blood Bowl night.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
What?
That's not actually true. You would need tools to assemble the miniatures and paint them.
You doing the math in your head too? Okay.
What? How is 40 plus 40 120?
Yeah.
So it comes with the pitch, and it comes with the dice and the counters that you need to play the game.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rule
So
book.
your
all that
$40 investment is I got my team.
Right.
Yeah.
And
if
then
somebody
you
else already
might
has
have
the
their
stuff, you
team
could
or
go
has
and
stuff
play
you
with
would
I was
it.
gonna say a lot of these when you say like to start, a lot of it is like your buddy will have the rule book, or like
Yeah.
somebody who's invested will have the rule book and all the
Right.
counters and stuff, and you'll buy just the models and you'll go over there and eventually you get your own rule book.
and they're the ones who get you in.
Right, they're
Yeah.
the crack
Right.
dealer.
Right, yeah. right.
Here's a free sample.
Right.
Here's a free taste.
Hey, Charlie, how's it going? So Charlie plays Vermintide.
Okay.
And Vermintide is a Warhammer video game.
Yeah,
and
that
that
falls
is
in
in
the
the
fantasy
sphere. Not in the 40k?
Correct.
So it's fantasy and 40k are the
Fantasy
two
and
spheres,
sci-fi,
right?
basically.
Fantasy and sci-fi. Okay, so we have
Yeah,
Blood Bowl.
whatever, yeah,
If you want to play tabletop football,
Star
game.
Wars, Lord of the Rings.
okay.
It's a good game, and we have a pretty decent local scene for it.
Okay.
Then there's a new game that actually comes out next week called Warcry.
Okay.
And it's basically a fantasy game where you have like little war bands of chaos dudes who are kind of like evil guys that they like. It's like gangs, but in a fantasy universe. So they're like 10 or 12 dudes, and they like run around in their little war band. You got your little war leader.
Gangs of New York, but with fantasy.
Right.
Okay.
And they hit each other with weapons and stuff.
Okay. Cool.
It's
I can
pretty
dig.
cool. You can actually play all the Age of Sigmar factions in it.
Uh-huh.
There's 4 main factions of Age of Sigmar. Or Age of Sigmar fantasy, same thing.
And Warhammer's got hey, Cretaceous Beard, welcome. The lore of Warhammer is so deep, both the 40k and
been around
fantasy
for quite
side,
some time.
that like all the video games, the tabletop stuff, like it all talks to each other and references a million different
Right.
things, right?
Right.
Okay.
So Warcry, you can play any of the factions. The 4 factions for Age of Sigmar, the fantasy sphere, are Death, Destruction,
Okay.
Order, and Chaos.
Sweet.
So Death is undead.
Yeah.
Destruction is basically orcs. They have some other guys in there, like ogres and stuff. I think goblins are destruction.
Okay.
And then they have
Every
order.
goblin I've met.
Then they have order, which is like humans. And then this new faction called Stormcast Eternals, which are basically like reborn warriors. They're like an army of paladins, but they're kind of ghosts. It's weird.
And so you'll pick a faction and you skirmish.
Yeah.
And
They're pretty cool.
everyone's okay.
Yeah.
This is
The next one.
This is bugging me. So,
And then Chaos is
okay,
the bad guy.
So the undead, meaning not or no longer dead, is death. But the army of ghosts is not death.
So they don't have any flesh.
What are we doing here?
They're animated suits of armor, basically.
Space Wolves is probably my favorite faction. It did not influence my cosplay choice, says Chancellor.
I'd like to see the cosplay. A lot of Warhammer cosplay is pretty cool.
Chans, if you have a link to any of your Warhammer cosplay, toss it up. I don't know that I can throw it on screen with the way that I have things set up, but we can see it and react to it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. It sounds pretty cool.
Okay, so what's the startup for
Just kidding.
Warcry. So I think they have a starter box that includes 2 factions and a bunch of terrain that you play on. I want to say that's $150.
Is there any way...
That's enough for 2 people to play.
If someone's new and trying to choose a game, should they like read up on some Warhammer lore, or should they just play the game and then see what strikes them and then learn about the shit after?
So it kind of depends on what you're there for, and this is something you kind of got to figure out.
Okay.
So basically, there's like 3 facets of the game, of the universe, of the hobby we
Okay.
call it. There's building and painting miniatures.
Yeah.
There's playing the game, and then there's the lore. And some people do all of it. Some people only do 2 out of 3, and some people only
Scholars,
do 1.
architects, and combatants.
Basically.
Okay.
Yes.
You just made up 3 other words to confuse us. Like, if this was too simple for you, I will now make up 3 other words that you could call.
Because it's
Like
accident.
people, the hobbyists who enjoy the figurines, the gamers who enjoy playing the tabletop game, and the nerds who enjoy, I say nerds in the most loving of ways,
Right.
who enjoy the books and the lore and the stories.
Those are quite good.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Now I'm fairly certain this is all Photoshop.
Yeah.
No, those are
That's
quite.
the fakest con I've ever seen in the background.
Those are quite
Fucking
excellent.
Green screen to shit.
I'm a little. I like Imperial Fist better than Space Wolves, but those are quite excellent.
Hey, I've seen that one. I saw that one on, I think, Imager.
You didn't realize that was Chanslin?
No.
Yeah.
I was browsing
really
Imager
awesome.
and I passed on this very one. I was like, this
a lot
is
of
super
people,
cool.
a lot of people that do the Space Marine cosplays, they don't get the bulk right,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
you're
tell
like-
in the legs they're like real skinny and like human size. I'm like,
No, it's
Nah.
all about mass.
right,
You take up space, kiddo.
right.
Chanslin, you're impressive as shit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
some
Those are
impressive shit.
excellent.
Well, that's so cool. I'm so glad that I ran into that on my own. Like,
That's Chanslin.
yeah, I have
so
actually seen
cool.
those before. They're really good.
well done. I really enjoyed that.
Game guy. Hey, what's up?
He's like, I'm all about it.
Yeah. So above Warcry. So
then there's
we'll
regular.
flip through the rest of them pretty quick. So
yeah,
we can
there's
talk about
regular
40K.
Age of Sigmar,
Okay.
and that's full size Age of Sigmar. It has the same 4 factions in it. I'm assuming they're eventually going to bring rules to
And
play
Age
your
of
Warcry
Sigmar is
factions.
synonymous with 30K. You might hear it referred to as 30K.
No,
No. Age of Sigmar is not 30K.
no, it's not. Age of
Okay.
Sigmar is its own game. It's in the fantasy universe.
Okay.
And
Is
it's basically like high fantasy miniatures game. It's a mass battle game is what we call it. So it has more than 20 figures.
And startup cost for that. Let's say
probably
tomorrow. I want to play a game of Age of Sigmar.
So you need to.
Age of Sigmar is actually easier to
paint
play.
fast.
It's easy to play at small points.
Okay.
So you could probably start a game for you could probably start an army for $250
Okay.
ish.
Okay.
And that's pretty small points. That's probably 1,000 points. Now I don't know. There's probably some deals that you can get and like kind of
So
finagle your way.
real
in
quick
there.
side note. So this miniatures game and a lot of miniatures games, when we refer to points, what we
Sorry,
mean
yes.
is that I just sort of realized that maybe I was sort of 2 steps ahead. You create an army and you are given a certain number of points, and you use
Right.
each figure or unit or
Right.
whatever is worth a certain number of points.
Correct.
So that you're not just taking all your figures and putting them on a table. You're
Correct. Now, you
selecting
could.
which ones.
If that was what your opponent and you wanted to do,
Sure. Yeah.
no, there's no fun police.
Right. Yeah. You
Well,
play whatever fuck game you want. What do I give a
like
shit?
it's a
I don't know what comic book shops
Point by
you play
system,
at,
so
but there's
like-
always a fun police.
Oh, there are.
Oh, that's not allowed.
When I played this
Right.
in 6th grade, like we had enough points for like a 2,000. I think like a 1,200 point game. Like we had small
Okay,
stuff.
that's
So we
fairly
said-
small, but that's
like-
over half
But
usually.
we were like 1,200 points, and then we'd say, okay, I'm buying this squad of guys. They have this number of guns. This gun's a little better upgraded, so it's worth a few more points.
Right.
And you spend them. You pay your points. You have your army, and then that way you know that
And then-
at least mathematically speaking, they're balanced against each
And
other.
then each game is going to be a variant, but each game is strategic and turn-based. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then there will be variants in the rules and stuff like that.
Correct.
But, so like an X-Wing, the way that you play is you create your squad using the points, and
It's a
then
similar system,
you set up what each thing does prior to the turn, and then the turn
round
happens,
starts
and,
and-
things happen in turns.
So
Yes.
X-Wing has alternating activations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Meaning you do something, and they do something, and you do something, and they do something.
Is that true?
It's not exactly like that, but it is kind of like that. So each figure moves based on its pilot skill, so sometimes you might move 2 things, and then
That's right.
within each movement, there is a set of things. So it's like, this guy moves, now we're in this second phase, so there's a thing of that happens. If you don't have a thing that happens in that phase, then it's just me, and then now it's the attack phase. Now you're on, so
Right.
it's sort of you do a thing, I do a thing, but it's not exactly you do a thing, I do a thing.
So a lot of the smaller games use that alternating activations method where they have like the movement phase where everybody moves all their models, and I'll move my models and then I'll move a model or a unit and you'll move a unit. and then I'll move a unit, and then you'll move a unit. And then once all the units have been moved, we can move on to the next phase.
Okay.
But the mass battle games are using an older style of game design, which is just I go, you go. So I have my entire turn where I move all my models, I shoot all my models, I assault with all my models, and then my turn is over, and it's now your turn to do the same.
Interesting. Okay. So then, Game Guy says he got Popeyes for the first time. Well, let us know how Popeyes was. Pal, the biscuits are good.
Well,
if I
apparently,
remember, right?
Popeyes mashed potatoes are not good.
Are not good?
Oh,
That's what
okay.
he said.
That's a bummer. I'm sorry. So we have a sort of just a quick basis of sort of how like a minis game will work. So
There's one more thing besides the points that balances the game, and that's your army construction. You may have compulsory choices, so you must pick. In a lot of games, you must pick a headquarters unit that is your leader, and you must pick some troops units, which are like your basic dudes.
Right.
I think Age of Sigmar calls them core. 40k.
So depending
calls
on the
them
game,
troops.
you can't spend like, okay, I'm just going to spend all my points on this guy.
Right.
You have to sort of
You have to
diversify
have
a little bit.
layers and
You can't just buy 10 of the same tank,
Right.
and that's your whole army.
you can't use
So
German blitz strategy. I'm gonna have 8 Land Raider Crusaders just run you over.
next in fantasy after Age of Sigmar, was there
we're
something
done.
higher than that? That's fantasy.
Yeah, there is a game called Age of Sigmar Skirmish, which is basically a smaller version of Age of Sigmar, but I think it's going away, and Warcry is going to kind of take its place.
Okay. So next we go into the 40k verse, and there's some games for 40k.
There's quite a few more in the 40. The 40k franchise is by a large margin more successful.
Okay.
It's the game more people play 40k, and more people play 40k's kind of satellite games too.
Okay.
So at the bottom, you have Necromunda, which is gang warfare in the 41st millennium.
Okay.
And it's like you can play all these different gangs. They have like a gang that's made of cultist dudes.
I'm gonna give me one quick second, guys. Keep going.
Okay, there's a
Talk
gang
to these guys about it.
There's
I'll
a
be right
gang that's like enforcers, which is like policemen. There's a gang that's like redemptionists or like religious people.
What's your favorite color?
There's a gang that's like these dudes that are like factory workers. There's a gang that's all the rich people that come in down and hunt all the not rich people.
Okay.
Quite interesting.
What's that one?
A lot of social commentary we could have there, but...
Oh my gosh. The Greatest Prey or something like that was that long short story with the man who hunted the people on the island.
Right. So think of kind of like a Judge Dredd universe.
Okay.
It's heavily inspired by Judge Dredd.
The whole 40k universe?
No, Necromunda specifically is more inspired by Judge Dredd. But you've seen like Mega City 1, right?
Yes.
So that's 40k. These huge hive cities that have billions of people, and they're like extend deep into the ground and way up into the air, and the richest people live at the very top, and all the factory workers live at the very bottom.
Gotcha.
And the factory workers either they farm stuff or they build stuff, and they're poor, and it sucks for them. It's very dark. Life for the average person is not good.
I can imagine that just from what I've seen.
Life for rich people is not good, really, either.
Yeah. So what we're saying is life is just not good.
So, okay,
Well,
so
I think
after that,
on
we
this
move on.
depressing podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
So after that, in kind of... so a Necromunda gang is very similar to Warcry. They're like $40.
Okay.
Or $50.
Easy to get into.
Sometimes you'll buy 2 boxes so that you have enough dudes. Because when your dudes... And Necromunda has this cool campaign system. Mm-hmm. So like when your dudes die, they could like die.
Oh,
and then
cool.
like... You can obviously use the model again, but like it's now a different dude.
Yeah.
Right.
But a lot of people like to build a new model for their new dude.
Okay, that was a test, and you guys passed. I wanted to see if you could host without me, and you did.
Yeah, you're pretty much useless here.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. No,
You've been replaced.
That's what I needed to know.
Stupid blue hair. And
So
No, I'm just sorry.
say everything you said again.
So yeah, Necromunda is really cool, very into the campaign and everything. The only really barrier to entry for Necromunda is that it requires quite a bit of terrain, which can be expensive and difficult to paint.
Okay, and is it all stuff you have to buy and make, or can you make your own?
You can make your own terrain. You could use cardboard boxes and so.
I was gonna say that's all I did. I took styrofoam cups and slapped that sucker upside down and painted it, made a little bunker base with a hole in it. And yeah.
So there's actually a company called Prometheum Forge. Plug them real quick. They make an MDF kit that enhances a tall boy beer can to make it like a Prometheum or like a gas storage tank.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like $3.
So they sell the spare part. Like, you need to go
put these on your can
get drunk
and
one
because-
night.
Right.
Keep everything you drink and then we'll sell you the spare parts, and you slap it on, and boom.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
Cool. Yeah.
There's
a Pringles stand one.
nothing
That's
from
clever.
part 1 to the very end that I don't like about that.
They even have different kinds for the ones that there's one that stand up and there's some that lay over. So you just get a 6-pack and bring your buddy over, or 12 6-packs.
I need
Bring
you
your
to come
buddy
get
over.
drunk, and then I'm gonna paint your shit up. Like, all right, I guess.
Okay,
So up from there you have Kill Team, which is basically a small version of 40k. It's got rules so that you can use less than 20 models. I think Kill Team actually the max is 20. You cannot have more than 20.
And if you want to, what's the startup cost for Kill Team?
So that varies greatly, but you can start Kill Team with a lot of the basic troops boxes, which are in the $35 to $45.
Is there crossover here? Like, can you get minis and use them for a bunch of different games? and
Absolutely.
variants? Okay.
I'm glad you asked. So you can, all the Kill Team models are usable in 40k.
Okay.
All the 40k
But
models
not every
are not
model
usable
is
in Kill Team.
Okay, so not every model is usable in everything.
Right.
But there
that
is
was a
some
math
crossover.
question I had on the star.
If 3 Kill Team members are available for 40k, and 5 40k members are traveling at 60 kilometers.
It's the all girls are people, but not all people are girls.
Right. Square rectangles.
There's actually a whole
Yeah,
bunch
yeah.
of stuff.
Like you can't bring a tank to Kill Team.
Okay.
Man,
Right.
that's all I wanted to. Okay,
So above Kill Team is
40k.
It's 40k itself.
that's
Right.
the good stuff. That's the juicy stuff. I'm telling
But
you,
is,
that's
and
what I
is
played.
above 40k the 30k
exactly
that you're referring to?
I don't want to say it's above, but it's above probably in cost.
Okay.
But it's similar in how it functions.
So then, before we'll start talking about 40k then, and sort of open up to questions. But if I was owning nothing, I would like to play 40k. I would like to play 40k. How much money do I need to start playing 40k today?
A lot of it depends on the faction that you're going to play.
Okay.
Some of the factions are quite expensive. Some of the factions you get good deals on. Like if you wanted to play Space Marines, there's a lot of deals floating around because Games Workshop loves Space Marines.
Okay.
They also think that they own the idea of Space Marines.
Yeah.
So maybe they do, maybe
like
they don't.
that they
not for me
came
to
up with
decide.
the Space Marine.
Right.
Like, Halo doesn't.
There's a
exist
big
or
thing
something.
where they sued a writer that wrote a book called Spot the Space Marine, and it was a big deal. So,
That's great.
anyways, so if you want to play
It's
Space Marines, there's
shocking.
quite a few good deals out there. There's like this box called Dark Imperium that you can buy, which is enough for 2 players to play, $150, right about where they like to start you out at. That has the rule book for 40k, which is $60 by itself. It's quite a weighty tome.
Okay.
And it has enough models for both players to play about 800 points worth.
But there's no startup kit for 40k, right?
That's the starter kit.
Oh, that is the starter kit.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just
you
is
can
for
go
2
get
players.
that. It's for 2 players.
Right.
And how much is that?
150.
Okay, so 150 bucks. We
It'll
could
get your foot in the door.
we could
It
get
will.
our feet wet.
Right.
Okay.
What in a perfect world, you would find another player wanting the other faction in the box. So you have Space Marines, Loyalist Space Marines, and Death Guard, which are like dirty, disease-ridden Space Marines.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that.
There's more to them. They have a little bit more depth
I'll
than
be
that.
dirty Space Marines.
I mean, that's the only way it would work.
Okay.
Right. And the best way to do it, probably, in my opinion, is buy 2 of those.
Okay.
And then you have a rule book, you have a rule book,
And you got
just trade the
1,600-point army.
right, and you just trade the models, and you have enough. The armies are fairly well balanced against each other. Now, if you
I
went
see.
to play with somebody else, and you're like,
Yeah.
I have my 1,600 points of starter kit stuff. This may not be the best 1,600 points that you can build.
So if you're building a 40k army, do you look for like specifically? Are you like, oh, so I don't know what the equivalent would be, but I'm going to put it in Star Wars terms. I fucking love Poe, so I'm gonna find me a Poe. I'll go online and buy a Poe. Is that a thing that you do with 40k? Or like, I need a brawler, or I need
You
a.
can get
an-
specialist characters
Yeah.
and specialist units all the time.
Okay, and you just look.
I
up
need
and
this
get that one
named character.
And
I
then you-
need
and then you build,
Raboot
like, your-
Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines.
You build like your army around that guy.
Yeah.
Like this is the guy I want to play. So how can I create
Make
the
that
most efficient
what is
army
good
effective
with
and
him
stuff
with
like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
God, I forget what when I was little. I mean, I had a Blood Angels army, and I remember buying this, and I forget his
Dante?
name. No.
Mephiston.
Yes. Oh, I like this guy. Oh.
Mephiston is a dope ass space magic vampire dude.
Yeah, he was crazy, and I was painting like all the other stuff. I was like spraying.
I think he's about to get a new model.
I did like a white primer and a red paint, and I just like rush painted everything. him, I remember as a kid, and this was a lot of time for me,
Right.
especially with my like ADHD and impatience. I spent like 3 hours painting it, which
Yeah.
for me as a kid was a long time because the other ones I was like, man,
It's like the equivalent of staying in your room for a year and a half. for like me.
Right.
years.
Right.
It's the same day we literally bought that 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I remember. Oh man.
So what sort of table space do you need? So I'm going to start playing 40K. I go buy my $150 box. I invite a friend over.
Beer pong table.
4x4. I
4 foot by
recommend
4 foot
starting
table.
to play on a 4x4.
Not 4x8?
Full-size games are played on 4x6.
4x6, gotcha.
A full-size game is 4x6
Yeah, but if you have less than 1,000 points, I would play on a 4x4.
feet.
Correct.
Not a 4x4. That's a piece of.
Right. Okay, so
Correct.
a dinner table.
Correct. So something
You could
slightly
play
larger
on
than
the-
this.
Okay, you could start off like an octagonal poker table.
The
could start
shape of the
small
table,
on it.
when you first start, the shape of the table and the terrain you use isn't that important.
Okay, so in 40K you have your armies. And you also need terrain. It's
do.
not just
You
a flat
have
mat.
to have
You
something
don't
to
roll
hide
out a
behind.
mat and start going. Like
If you had it
in
flat,
X-Wing,
it
you
would
roll
be-
out the
it would
mat.
be
They have terrain for
super
X-Wing.
Ish.
A lot of it's 2D, where it's just like a little
There's-
planet that's like printed.
Asteroids. There's just asteroids.
Oh, there's no planets? Oh.
Space and asteroids. Those are the things. In it.
Because X-Wing is at the
Guess you're not
fighter
gonna-
level.
Yeah, you're not going to get close to a planet.
So yeah, like
My
the
favorite thing
planet
though,
is
as a
the
kid
backdrop.
was I'd go out into the backyard, I'd climb a tree, and I'd break off branches, and then I'd lay them down as terrain, as like falling down trees from a forest. Like a little small twig this big suddenly became a redwood that fell
Yeah.
down, and like it was so much fun finding shit in
So
the
you
ground
go
and
to
building terrain.
the
out of it.
backyard or whatever and
You
make
absolutely
some
can.
terrain and just do whatever you can.
Oh, yeah.
The terrain can be whatever.
Exactly.
But they sell terrain.
And
like
there's
you can buy
papercraft terrain.
kits
You
and
can,
stuff like that.
Fold up a little cardboard box into a piece of terrain. That
Okay.
works too.
So you've
Nothing wrong with that.
You've got your army. You've got about the size of a dinner table,
Mm-hmm.
and that's good enough. And you can make terrain out of whatever you want or go buy it.
Right.
How long does a game last?
A 2,000 point game is about regulation size for 40K, and that probably lasts 2.5 hours.
Okay.
An evening.
So this is like Monopoly level or Risk level. So you're gonna make like
more.
this will be the thing you do this evening.
Correct.
It's like, hey, you wanna hit a game of 40K before we go to the movie? That's not the thing. It's like
You would need
come
to
over
play a much
tonight-
smaller game.
Come over tonight, and tonight we're playing 40K.
Right. Now, some players play faster than others, and some factions play faster than others, and you could play a smaller game. Like,
Okay.
you'd be like, let's play 750 points.
Okay.
That probably only takes an hour.
For me, I always think it took about as long as a game of Monopoly and ended with just as much screaming and yelling as a game of Monopoly. When I was like,
Is that fuzziness in the rules? Like it's open to
Can be.
interpretation?
They've gotten a lot better.
sixth graders who
Oh,
were
okay, just kids playing games.
just you could fucking do that. You just rolled all sixes. Like fucking shit. Like take a picture of the table. I'm done for the day. Like, we'd do that. We'd just take a picture of the
Yeah.
table and then like have to sweep it off. And Mom want dinner. We eat dinner and then
We tried to do that once with Risk, where we're like, okay, it's been all night, we got to stop, so take a picture. Come back the next night. We came back the next night, and we're like, there's no way we're gonna fucking just start over. Like the picture thing worked in theory, but it never like. Okay, so how many like do you have games that you played, or did you just collect them?
So I'll tell a very, very short version of the whole story. So around sixth grade, my buddy Carl got a Space Marines kit. I came over to his house one day and he was painting them, and he was just painting them random colors. He had like no
plan, just
yeah,
I'm
he was
painting,
just
making
painting
shit.
them random colors.
But
and
that's
kind of-
okay to start. You said 3 colors.
That's okay to...
And he didn't have like
Like
he
I
had
said, there's no
generic-
fun police.
Yeah.
If you don't paint your miniatures, that's fine.
You will just be judged.
But like he didn't.
I didn't say that.
He wasn't going for a specific faction of Space Marines.
Sure,
he was
yeah.
just going for generic.
Well, there's build your own.
Yeah.
You can have your own, create. There's definitely room where you can create your own. They call them chapters of Space Marines, and
Yes.
they do their own thing, and they got their own.
But
color.
technically, in lore, factions have color schemes. So if you're going to get an army and you want to play a faction, typically you will color around that.
Correct.
And
Okay.
so
Like these are Alpha Legion, and they are teal dudes.
Okay.
That's what color they are.
Yeah.
So
You can't bring in some yellow fuckers and be like, Alpha Legion, get out of my shot.
Right. Now, obviously, anything's open to interpretation. But
Sure.
So I'll get this done quick. So he explained Space Marines, and I I barely understood what he was talking about. This was all foreign to me. So went to Y2 Comics actually down on Granbury, and
still there, still selling 40K.
I grabbed the first box of Space Marines I could, because when I realized, I was like, oh, there's something called the Tyranids, and over here there's the I think they're the Space Orcs. I forget their names suddenly, but like, and then the Tau and the Eldar and Dark Eldar. That's the ones I remember. And I was like, no, these all look scary. I'm just gonna get my own Space Marines. And then I just grabbed the
I love 6th grade Jonathan. These Warhammer figures are scary.
He would have killed me in 6th grade. So I grabbed.
You would have. He would have killed me.
I grabbed the first colored book I could see that was like a rule book, and it was the Blood Angels. And so once I grabbed that one, I was like, okay, they're red. I paint them red, and that's it. And then
there was no choice. It was purely chance.
You were trying to figure out what you should do.
I was so scared of not knowing the rules that I followed everything. I was like, this is red, so I guess I paint my guys red. I am the Blood Angels now. Okay. And I went home and I painted them, and I came back to the store and I was like,
better get that tattooed.
I'm like, these are mine. And then the store owner was like, you're the freaking Blood Angels, dude? And I was like, I'm the red ones. And he's like, man, I can't believe you. I'm like, okay. So I never went back to the store.
Right, why would he?
That's a sad experience.
He judged as a 6th grader for being a faction you don't even fucking know.
So we played it as like
the Blood Angels aren't even bad.
They're just
There's nothing wrong with them.
They're just extremists in many ways, but so are literally
all the other ones.
And that's what I learned.
They're not alone.
So we built enough, and we had the codex, and we kind of like, okay, we tried to play a couple games, and we maybe over the next year or two played and completed 6 or 7 games in our life.
Okay.
It was mostly build them, paint them, collect them, have fun, and we would try to play the game, but with never enough confidence.
You'd play a little bit and then sort of stop.
We just had a hard time understanding the rules.
Yeah.
So I'll say this. Part of that was that you were a 6th grader.
Yes.
And part of that was that older editions of 40K were more cryptic to understand. The newest edition of 40K, 8th edition, is, in my opinion, the easiest to pick up and play. Easier than it's ever been.
How often is there a new edition, like the X-Wing 2.0 or the 8th edition? Like, is this every 10 years?
I would say 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years,
but
on
it does
average,
depend.
They'll have a new edition.
The shortest was just under 3, but I think the longest was 8 or 9.
Right.
So it depends, and I think that their plan is to stop redoing the edition, and they're going to have a living edition that they just tweak.
Right. So what we're getting at is that tabletop games are starting to go the way of what video games have been doing for a couple years now, which is like, look, we're not really, I mean, video games do release
like
sequels, but we're just going to sort of like, it's a game as a service, and we're just going to sort of update it over time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, but the reasons are completely different. Because the reasons why tabletop games are doing that is before the interwebs and your cell phones and everything being right there at your hands, every rule, everything about the game had to be printed off and distributed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like X-Wing 1.0, everything is printed on the card, everything is printed in it, you throw your phone away, you turn off all the electronics, your electricity goes out, you play the game. Doesn't matter. Everything's right there. But in order to continue to have people interested in your game and to continue to make money, you need to constantly be adding to it. But everything you add to the game changes how stuff that wasn't a problem can now become a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so without having the internet to be like, oh, that's not a problem, let's fix that, boom, fixed. Okay, that turned that into a problem, so now how do we release something else to counter that being a problem so that this is no longer a problem? And then you end up where X-Wing just happened very quickly in terms of the lifespan of a tabletop game, where it got so ridiculous that everything was and wasn't a problem.
So it's not just a matter of like, we're going to add on to it over time, which some games are patched because they're unfinished, and some games are just added to over the course. So something like Ghost Recon Wildlands, for example, was a finished game when it came out. Everything was there, and they just kept adding missions and stuff to it.
Correct.
But this is, we're adding stuff to it, but also we have to rebalance everything every time we add something to it.
Not maybe everything every time, but
it's a little
for the most part,
dramatic,
because there's probably, in 40K, there's probably 500 units.
Okay.
So
total across all the factions.
Time, and
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I got
Yeah, go for it.
So we've been talking a lot about the different types of games and how you could jump into it, but you're like an award-winning painter. So I want to ask you a couple
I
questions.
got to stop you right there.
Okay.
I have won an award, but I would consider
actually,
myself
I think, at
mediocre at best.
You have won an award
He
painter.
didn't say you deserved it. He
I
just
said
said you
you
did
did.
it.
I have won an award.
You have won recognition for the quality
Yes.
of your
Someone
painting.
recognized.
Like
true.
I'm not you are
There are
you're
men much
clear-
better than me.
Sure, I'm sure there are, as there are better people at all of everything we all do. But
Right.
you're clearly very good at this.
Okay, carry on.
So I just grabbed this one because
No one's a bigger asshole than Raven 1, okay?
Yeah.
no, I just grabbed this one because I love the
Maybe game
the
guy.
look of the drapery here.
The standard,
So yeah,
it's his battle standard.
so I'm kind of curious if you wouldn't mind running us through, like, okay, you grab this guy. What's your painting strategy from start to finish, time wise, investment?
Do they have a paint by numbers version of
Like,
these things?
They absolutely do, and it's called the Battle Ready system.
So if you don't mind, I'd love to know a lot about that.
So these are not using the Battle Ready system, partially because the Battle Ready system was not out yet when I painted these, and because there is absolutely. I'm not meaning to demean the Battle Ready system, but it is definitely a tabletop level paint job for the most part. It doesn't get much higher than that in the Battle Ready system.
Right.
The Battle Ready system basically uses a colored spray primer.
If you want to zoom in on that. So that's the one I was looking at. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. It uses a colored spray primer.
Okay.
And then it uses these paints, these new paints called contrast. And what they're advertised to do is paint. So when you paint a model, you can't just paint the dude red and have him look good. Like if you just have a one color of red, you primed him black, now he's red. He's red.
Blood Angels.
He has no definition. Right?
There's no depth to it at all.
Right. The details are so small that they don't create their own shadows very well. The lights are so bright that they don't create their own shadows for how small they are. So you have to artificially create the shadows.
And that's I think the first struggle I had as
Yes,
a kid.
and it's
because
difficult.
I would prime it and paint it, and then I'm like, why does this look so fake to me?
Right.
Right.
And then I've
Exactly.
seen, like, I would open a codex and be like, this one painted this way, and look at all the little lightning strike, like, cracks in the wall. I was like,
So how many figures do you need to be okay with ruining? Getting at least a bait, like, okay, I can
Honestly,
paint it now.
With the new system with the contrast paints, 3, probably.
Okay.
You need to
you're gonna
ruin
have 3
a couple
figures you
figures,
hate.
and they're pretty thin paints. You can just spray them again.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. Is ruining probably none.
Yeah, maybe not ruining them.
I doubt you would
Okay.
do anything to it, and that's
and
when
you
you
mess up the
you can
first
always
round.
strip them back to their bare plastic too.
Okay.
which
paint
is
strippers.
which would be the most likely way to ruin a thing if you left it in the stripper too long, and
Correct.
then it's ruined. But
Yeah, don't stay inside of a stripper too long, gentlemen.
yeah, that's
You'll be ruined.
You will be ruined.
You'll be that faction of shit fucked up space marine.
So let's talk about we'll talk about the battle ready system because it works for anything. Personally, I think it works better for models that have lots of cloth or lots of flesh, lots of organic shapes. Not as well for armored figures like Space Marines, but it works fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think it looks better on cloth and skin. And basically, it is a one color base coat that's either a gray or a like a beige. And then you use this contrast paint, and it pools in the recesses, and so it's thinner on the highlighted areas that are like the large flat areas, and it's much thicker in the recesses, giving you much deeper color in the recesses. And you can easily paint a figure in one coat
Okay.
with that. And it looks like surprisingly good for the amount of effort and skill that it takes.
That was the first thing that I figured out when trying to paint miniatures, and I started with ships. And ships are super easy, guys.
Yeah.
Like if you paint a solid color and you give it a wash.
Yes. So there's
it looks
also
like
wash.
You kind of know what you're doing.
So contrast and the battle ready system are a thicker, more formulated version of a wash. And what a wash is just a super thin paint that pools in the recesses, basically. So like a lot of this guy on the banner, you see how he has like a lot of
it'll
definition.
take paint and pull it into the cracks and
Correct.
recesses and
So
stuff.
it has a very high surface tension. Maybe it's low surface tension. Has something to do with the surface tension.
Okay.
And that's what makes it pool in the recesses and not pool on the flat surface.
Together.
Okay,
Correct.
so there is a way to get your foot in the door painting without
easily.
even if you're
Yeah, like so zoom in on this guy.
okay.
So like you see on his banner, right? You have like quite a bit of definition on the
Like the wings, even like in the cracks between the wings, you see like
that's a wash.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So that's 2 colors and a wash. It's not hard.
And, and to apply the wash, you're not like getting into the cracks.
No.
You're just like brushing it.
Yes. Now there is a pin wash, which is applying it to the cracks specifically.
Okay.
And that's, you can see, if you can get close-ups on this, you can see that's been done on the shoulder panels and stuff like that.
Okay.
And that gives it, when you zoom in on it, you can tell, and it gives it a little bit of definition.
So how long, like a single figurine, how much investment time-wise do you put into it? And like I was describing mine where I'd assemble them, spray them, paint them, and for me as a kid, I'd put about an hour and a half into a single figurine. What's
tough.
yours like?
That's tough. Because I don't ever, if I can avoid it, I don't ever paint one at a time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm a huge batch paint guy.
Okay.
Like this, so these guys are Dark Angels, First Legion. And I painted a 3,000 point army for Horus Heresy in 6 weeks. And I painted them, I laid down all the base colors. Then I did all the details. And then I did all the bases separate. And then I glued them to the bases.
Okay.
So rather than try to do it all at once with masking, that doesn't work.
Are there, so like with some CCGs, some collectible card games, there's going to be rare versions or variants of like a card that costs crazy online, like Magic or something. Is there something, the minis there are super rare, like I want this fucking figure and this is going to cost me 10 grand?
So we have a good example here. This is Autilian Score.
Here, let's bring that up. Which guy?
Right here. This is Autilian Score, Council Delegatus of the Alpha Legion.
Okay. Ooh, that's pretty.
You can see he's wearing another man's face on his face.
Shut up.
End podcast. And he has a pimp cane.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That's for rapping fools upside the head.
And
So-
leading parades.
He was available at a 2015 Games Day event that was only held in the UK.
Okay. And you have
These are very this is
foliage
very difficult to get.
on this
I
particular.
do. This is custom made for this. It's called a tuft.
Okay.
Tough.
Gotcha.
Tough cookies.
So if you were gonna, I don't know if this is a gauche question or not to ask, but if you were going to sell this, what would you expect from this?
So new in the box, these are $75 probably for this one dude.
Okay.
But he's very expensive because he was very limited run.
Okay.
But honestly, once he's painted, sometimes that does not increase the value. A lot of people want to repaint them anyway.
Right.
Right.
People, when they get them, I imagine they're like, I want it to be mine, custom to my looks.
Now,
And
he
now-
is of the Alpha Legion, so you're probably going to have him be Alpha Legion.
Right.
Like, he's a special character for Alpha Legion. But if you, like, bought some Ultramarines, which are like the poster child, the guys in the blue armor.
Right.
But you're like, oh, but I play Blood Angels.
So if you guys are listening to the audio podcast, you're watching us on YouTube, we're going to wind down real quick. But if you're hanging out on Twitch, keep hanging out because we're going to keep chatting and we're going to go longer. But if you guys have any questions for Lucas, feel free to put them in chat on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, just hit us up by sending us an email, gutternerds@gmail.com, or a comment on the YouTube video, and I'll let you know, and you can answer some questions.
So before we
come in
go,
late. Yeah.
we can pause. Could I plug some if
Please.
you want to know
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
So if you'd like to know more about Warhammer 40k, there's an excellent podcast called The Independent Characters.
Okay.
It's run by a guy named Carl. He lives in California, and he is
Not the Carl you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Different-
It turns out there's loads of them.
Loads of okay.
he's quite good. He's very welcoming to new players, and his podcast is very high production value.
Okay.
And he has 1 billion
Not
episodes.
this shit.
He's excellent. They also run, the same guy, not him, but his co-host runs an Age of Sigmar podcast called Lords and Heroes.
Okay.
That's good if you want to learn more about Age of Sigmar. There's a podcast for a game we didn't talk about, which I'm sad because it's one of my favorites, called The Depth Titanicus, and that's what this is for. Podcast for that is called Full Stride. That's run by a guy named Greg Dan. He lives in the UK. If you want to learn more about 30K, which is the main game that I play, and what all the miniatures here, except for the Little Reaver Titan here, were purchased for.
Okay.
You can listen to the Eye of Horus podcast. They're an Australian podcast. You can listen to the Age of Darkness podcast.
Do they need to
Excellent.
start over, like, from early episodes, or can they get in and each episode is pretty friendly to...
Yeah.
Okay.
And Eye of Horus actually also does content for Adeptus Titanicus. They have a sub series called Engine Kill, and a sub series called Gangbang, which is for Necromunda.
Why is it that you and I always look at like,
Gangbang, why don't you say so before?
I'm in! So, and then the last one is another 30K podcast. It's called The 500 Worlds. They just recently did a intro episode 17. And that's their intro to 30K, how to start playing 30K.
Oh, fantastic.
Which we didn't start.
That's
We didn't
good.
talk a lot
Yeah.
about 30K. It's basically a civil war that happened in the Imperium, which is the human faction of 40K, 10,000 years before 40K. It's harder to get into
40
the game.
minus 10 is
30.
You got it.
Checks out.
You got it.
always so smart.
Yeah.
I like that game. That's what I enjoy playing. It's a little bit more granular.
Like,
a lot
like
more.
on a, like, you mean in terms of scale? Like battle scale, I mean?
Yeah, we have bigger games, and 40K is more of an abstraction of a battle, whereas 30K is almost a simulation of a battle.
Okay. Yeah. that
It's a
makes
little bit
sense.
different, and some people like one, and some people like the other.
Where would X-Wing fall in that? Would that be simulation?
So, X-Wing would be more of a simulation of a battle, whereas Armada, well, I guess depending on the scale, like it's.
I think they're both
Yeah,
simulations.
Armada's
style
like
games.
giant
Yeah.
battle, whereas X-Wing isn't it more
X-Wing
like a
is
dogfighting?
dogfighting, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're getting a single skirmish between a
Two
selection.
squadrons of fighters.
Okay, so like I said, if you're hanging out on Twitch, stick around because we can keep chatting some Warhammer stuff. But the last thing that we do on the podcast proper before we go is go to the fan can. This is the Ask Us Anything can. If you want to ask us anything, add a question to it, tweet us at Gunners using hashtag FanCan, and I will throw shit all over the place.
Production value.
Production value.
What kind of production you get in the gutter?
Oh, that's a good question. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Favorite breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shit. Oh, they're all so good.
Yeah, there's a lot. Probably
There's
Cinnamon Toast Crunch for me.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is solid.
That's my
Cinnamon
pick.
Toast Crunch is the only one that you can eat at, like, not the only one, but like
But-
eat out of it, like.
Yeah, you can just like have the box and just like.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So realistically, the one I get the most often, and therefore probably my favorite, Honey Nut Cheerios. But if I really, if I could every time, I would.
Pretty
It would be
basic answer.
Yeah.
friggin' boring. Cracklin' Oat Bran. That stuff.
What are you, 40?
Yeah.
No,
What
you-
the-
I like
Yeah.
things that keep me regular.
No, I'm telling you, there is something about the taste in that sucker that is like when you. It's like you can eat them like dry, and they have like a sauce. They almost like a cookie. It's except it's. I don't know how to explain it. Fucking all.
Well,
Maybe I am
you're
an old
certainly
man.
doing a bad job of it. And you were going to say Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Definitely Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Ooh.
Although I find that as I get older, I can see the cinnamon less and less.
They put less and less cinnamon in
No,
the
I
toast.
can
No,
see it less
he
and
can't. You see the reason why Steve-O, get out!
You gotta be able to see why the kids love Cinnamon
Does
Toast
he
Crunch.
see why kids still love Cinnamon Toast Crunch? And then,
Is this a reference to the commercials?
yes, you nimrod.
Oh.
I'm so mad at you right now. Friendship challenge.
I don't know this shit. What about French Toast Crunch? Fans of French Toast Crunch?
actually,
Never
yeah.
had it.
It was-
It's fine, but
quite
Cinnamon
good.
Cinnamon
Toast
Toast Crunch, where it's at?
I found that there is a cinnamon roll cereal now.
Yes, and there's also a donut cereal.
Donuts?
Donuts, yes.
It's like Hostess is now making cereal.
Yeah.
My
goddamn.
mother, when we were kids, was convinced that our favorite cereal was the honeycomb one.
Sure, yeah. No.
With that
I
crazy
like
little
honeycomb.
Tasmanian devil looking monster
and
thing.
so like all of us as kids would eat it, and we're like, it's fine, it's cereal. And she's like, but you guys eat it so much, I just figured I'd get you more. And we're like, we really don't like it, Mom. She's like, nonsense, you love it. It's like,
Eat it
are
because
we
it's sugar you're giving us.
Are we a freaking commercial?
If we could
for this?
choose our sugar, I'd rather it.
It's like the Truman Show. Like,
So nobody's Sour Patch Kids cereal then.
Never had
Never
it.
had it.
Okay, I
don't eat
made
much
I made
breakfast
them
cereal
eat
anymore.
some of it
It's
a couple weeks ago.
super bland.
It's
Oh, really?
it's well, what it is it's sort of like imagine Trix, but they took like a powdered sugar, not the crystalled sugar, but the powdered sugar version of the sour powder or whatever that's on it, and so it tastes like Trix in bad milk.
Here's what they really should have called. Like on the box, they should just call it milk shittener because it shittens your milk.
Shits your milk, yeah.
It-
O's. It's all about the O's up here. If you don't know what O's are, it's OH Apostrophe
Oh,
S.
yes.
Yeah. That's good shit. That's good shit. Oh. So yeah, if you're watching on Twitch, guys, stick around. We're not going anywhere just yet. But my name is Steve-O.
I'm JB.
I'm Raven1.
And this is Lucas. Thanks for joining, buddy. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week.